Get in here, get in here. How is everybody doing? I hope your day is going amazing. I hope that you're hitting your goals. You are setting the path, the way that you want to go, and making things happen. So, today I really wanted to talk about, speaking of goals, I really want to talk about, as you see the topic, is why being process driven matters more than being purpose driven. Let me say that again. Why being process driven matters more than being purpose driven. Now, this might be a little bit controversial because I'm going against everything that has been kind of set in the past. If you recall, there was a period of time where everything was purpose driven. What's my purpose? You got to be in your purpose. Why don't you know your purpose? Purpose, purpose, purpose. And everything was purpose. There was a conference. They had conferences around purpose. They had books that sold millions talking about the purpose-driven life, and you need to have a purpose to have some kind of meaning in this life. And it was just purpose, purpose, purpose. And what it was doing, it was really causing more harm than good. And not saying that that's what they were trying to do, but it really just, I believe, let me know in the comments, but I believe it just confused the issue more, because that is not how life works. And then again, everyone started measuring their lives by, am I in my purpose? Do I know what I'm supposed to be doing? And then the people who they would say, oh, this is my purpose, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Then everyone was looking at them and they were doing like really big things. And so people were thinking like, oh, well, I must not have a purpose because I'm not doing big things like they are. I don't have a platform. I'm not on stages. I don't have the money in the cars. I must not be in my purpose. What exactly I'm doing? What am I doing? And that mindset, it quietly created more pressure and anxiety. And I'm speaking for myself. I felt like, especially as I was getting older, and then especially I was in the church heavily. I'm not anymore. But being in the church, people are looking at you like, oh, what's your purpose? What's your purpose? And mind you, if you don't know your purpose, quote unquote, if you couldn't tell people, especially in the church, what your purpose was, they would try to give you a purpose. And they would try to say that God said, this is your purpose and this is what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, we're about to shut that down. We're about to shut this down and we're going to break it down. Please be open to what I have to say, because this will help a lot of you and take a lot of the unnecessary anxiety and depression that we put on ourselves because of this not developed standard that has been pushed, that you need to have this grand purpose in order to have some kind of meaning and a way to measure the quality of your life, right? And so here's the thing though, this is the problem with being too purpose focused, because how they framed purpose was that it was one destination. That's how it was framed. It was just one destination. You had one role, you had one identity, and that's purpose. It's this one thing. It's this one thing. But life does not work in straight lines. Look over your life. If you look at the trajectory of your life, it's not a straight line. You had some pit stops, you had some turn around and come back, you had some go the other way. You just like when you're driving on the road, there are detours and you have to take another route, and it was never a straight path for your life. So why would the framing, how they frame purpose, why would it be one destination? And that's the thing. Most people don't know the full shape of their life yet. When people try to push this purpose thing on you, what they failed, this is what they missed. And I'm just going to say, this is what they missed. They missed that there is a divine creator. Someone created you. I don't know. I don't care if you believe in God or what you believe in. You are a product of a creation. Even just looking at the human body, you cannot tell me that there was a creator that meticulously put together the human body. The human body is the most perfect machinery ever. Look how the body runs. Look how it functions. to hold our spirit and our soul so that we can have this human experience. And basically, when you tell someone they have to be purpose driven, what you're basically saying is you're overriding the how can I say this? When they push the purpose, they're overriding the higher authority, because really it's the higher authority and your creator who leads you to the quote unquote purposes. Let me say that again. So we think that we know. We don't know. We don't know what's 10 years out. We don't know what's 20 years out. Right? But when we say, yep, this is my purpose, this is my one role that I'm supposed to do, you don't know that. You're just assigning yourself to something because you want to feel like you're doing something with your life and you're a part of something. And what is the point of this? Why am I even talking about this? It's because you can be more productive with your life if you just focus on your human experience. And your human experience will lead you where you need to be at the right time, because the world, the universe, the thing about our creator is there is what we know as time. There is a season and a time for everything. And I know you often hear like the world is a stage, and if you really look at even the seasons know when it's time to change. The seasons are on a timeline. The world is on a timeline. So you fit. You're just as nature knows when it's time to turn over and be renewed, you fit in that cycle. So your timeline, you're going to be where you need to be at the right moment. I know your timeline, you're going to be where you need to be at the right moment. So that's why it's important to be present in your process. And here's the thing, if you're purpose driven, but don't know your purpose yet, you end up feeling like you're failing at life. Am I lying? If you're purpose driven and you don't really know your purpose yet, you end up feeling like you're failing at life. And they try to give you the questionnaires to I know, to try to find your gifts and things like that, but that's not purpose. You want to focus on the process. Why? Because life pivots us. And that's the beauty of the journey. You have to know how to ride the waves of life. And am I saying don't have goals and just do whatever? No, that's not what I'm saying. Still, the goals that you have, the desires that you have inside of you to do something, that's not by accident. And those are the things you want to develop, what you really like to do. And that's not necessarily quote unquote your purpose, right? It's our experiences that reshape us. What you pursue today may not be your final destination. It might just be preparation. What you pursue today might not be the final destination. Do you think Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, do you think at 20 years old, he knew he was going to be president? Was he even thinking about that at 20 years old? I'm just saying. So the reframe is that we want to see life as experience, not a test. We want to see life as an experience, not a test. What is life about, right? Life is about experience, about growth, about becoming. And what if your purpose isn't a specific job title or role, but the person you are forming? That is the beauty of the human experience. Who are you becoming? And if you listen to my previous video, I do talk about this, about embracing the process, because the process it's beautiful because it's designed by your creator to prepare you for what your creator wants you to quote unquote pursue or have purpose for, right? Really, if we really break down what I'm saying, purpose is not something that we decide. Think about it. Purpose is not something that we decide, because at the end of the day, purpose belongs to our creator. You can say, well, God told me that I'm supposed to be doing this. Yeah, you can say that. But at the end of the day, your creator uses you as the creator sees fit. And yes, there's other components about free will and choices and the things that we make. But when it comes to purpose, purpose is at the discretion of our creator. And maybe I'll do another video about how the free will plays into that and the choices we make and actually living up to um, our human experience. I'm not sure how deep I want to go into that. And it's not really like a super deep thing, but really we overcomplicate life. We really overcomplicate life. The season that you're in right now, you're worried about my purpose, but what are you doing with where you are now? Are you taking care of your body? Like, do you have the foundational things even at play? We're thinking, my purpose, I'm supposed to be on the stages. I'm supposed to be on the stages, but you can't even work out consistently. And then you're trying to get to the stages, and because your health is so bad, you can't even stand up to speak for 5 minutes without being winded and tired and breaking out in a sweat. Right? So I think with the purpose driven life, it really took our focus away from the actual preparation process. It's like, oh, this is my purpose. I'm here. Oh, I'm here. Okay. Where are the roses at my feet? Where I made it. This is my purpose. No. The process is where you win, because that's where the process, if you believe in God, the process is where you learn more about God. The process is where you get more spiritually connected, right, with your creator. And I'm not even talking about church or the Bible. I'm talking about you see God in your process. And that's the true connection with God, because you can go to church and they can tell you what God is saying. God is saying this, God is this, but you have to experience that for yourself. And that's through your process. And maybe life isn't asking you to figure everything out. Maybe it's just asking you to engage, to be responsive, to use what you've already learned and apply that to your current situation, your current process where you are right now. And I hope this makes sense. I really hope this makes sense. I'm not trying to complicate this, but I've always been thinking about this with the purpose-driven life. I'm like, this is just a money grab. And please don't be mad at me, because I know this is a very sensitive topic, but the purpose-driven life was just a money grab. So instead of being purpose-driven, being process-driven is the way to go. And you know how you can see if I know what I'm talking about? Look at the results. The results never lie. What they say, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. Results. Look at the results of that error. And what being process-driven means is that you focus on growth. You're very aware and you pay attention to who you're becoming. And that's the thing, you stay open to redirection, because life will pivot you. You think that, I'm telling you, things change. Look how things change so fast. 1 minute, your parents are here. The next, they passed away. 1 minute, you're working a job. The next, you're laid off. Like, look how life pivots so fast. You think nothing stays the same. And that's the beauty of life, is navigating the changes that come at us. And the changes are there for a reason. There are some jobs, like, I'm so glad that I got fired. Or I remember one time, this was when I was in college, my car had broke down, and baby, I was broke. And so it took me a little while to get the money to get it fixed. So it was just sitting at the shop. And so I couldn't make it to my job. And it was an internship. And so they fired me. They let me go. They didn't renew me for the next semester. But don't you know that positioned me to get another internship that paid me like very well. And the internship lasted a whole year. And I was able to really, support myself while I was in college, because I went back to school full time. So with the other job I had, I was barely getting by, but because my car broke down, which we would think that's a bad thing, like, oh my God, that's a bad thing. but it positioned me to get not only a better paying job, but a position that helped my resume, that helped me even after that job. I got an even better job. So my name is on research papers. Like, it really elevated me. And so that's how life works. It redirects us. And some of the things that we think are bad, it's so amazing how it's really working out for our good. That's when things start to shake up in your life. See the blessing in it, because the shakeup is, oh my God, this is so good. The shakeup is to reposition you, and that's purpose. That's what we can't control. Purpose we can't control. We can't control it because your creator is the one who knows where you are supposed to be and where they want you to be and where they're hoping that you get to and where they know that you'll get to. Your creator is the purpose. And this is not a spiritual message, but your plan, the plan that was already given for your life is the purpose, but you can't decide what that is because you don't know. You don't know. That's why you have to stay open to redirection. And that at each level, you're getting better. You're getting wiser. You're learn the lessons early. Learn the lessons early so you don't have to keep repeating it and losing time, learning the same lesson. And that is what process-driven living is. And so let me just say this again. When you're purpose-driven, you're asking, what am I supposed to do? But when you're process-driven, you're asking, who am I becoming while I do this? Let me say that again. Purpose-driven ask, what am I supposed to do? Purpose-driven ask, who am I becoming while I do this? Because let me tell you something. Even with purpose, all these people who say, oh, this is my purpose, and they have a platform, they have a job title, they have a role. And then how many of them, they got caught up in scandals? Their character wasn't where it needed to be. And so even though they had this quote unquote purpose, it's tarnished, right? It really holds no weight anymore because who that person is ruined it. But that's when you're purpose driven. But when you're process driven, you're cleaning up your ways so that when God decides what or who your creator or whoever you believe in, when it's your time to hit your mark, you'll have everything you need. When it's your time to hit your mark, you'll have everything you need. And let me just say this. And I'm not saying that you don't use your gifts. I'm not saying don't have goals. I'm not saying don't strive for anything. I'm not saying that. Especially like I do music. I always talk about this. I'm a musician. So I definitely use the gifts that were that just came easily for me. Not saying I didn't work at it, baby. I practice. Not saying that it didn't work. I'm not saying that it's not without work. There's a grace that I have to do music. And if you do music, you understand what I'm talking about. There's a grace that I have to be able to practice and understanding and growing the gift. So I'm not saying don't use your gifts. I'm saying that your gifts are tools. And your gifts are tools, but that doesn't mean that's the final destination of your life. You don't know. You don't know the final destination or the final definition of your life. So just because you're good at something, that doesn't mean that's the whole story of your life. I'm good at many things. I can say anything. Like if I baked cookies, I can say, oh, because I'm good at baking cookies, that's my purpose. That's not true. That's a tool. That the baking cookies could be a tool that gets you in a door, that gets you an opportunity to do something outside of that, right? So gifts evolve. And as you know, as you've gotten older, interests change and your skills can transfer. Skills that you learned in one area, you can use in another area, right? So what matters most is having integrity in the process and growth. And that's being process driven. And I really wanted to free people who feel like they're behind, because that's not the case, right? And that's where the comparison comes, and We think that we're missing something because we're not, we don't have the platforms. We're not getting booked. We're not on stages. But process-driven living reframes that whole narrative that was pushed. And baby, it was an agenda. And I don't care. I know some people will try to disagree with what I'm saying. Look at the results. If purpose driven was what it was supposed to be, look at the results of that era. And you don't need a grand mission to justify your life. You just need forward movement. Right? Forward movement. You need to be moving forward. You need to be growing. You need to be growing in knowledge and wisdom. How does that sound to you, right? So let me just say, I just want to emphasize that you don't need the full map. It doesn't make sense for you to have the full map. The full map is a distraction because think about it. If you had the full map, you would skimp on the process. And that's because the process is so important. That's why you don't have the full map. That's why it's not one dimensional. You don't need certainty. You don't. You just need consistency. And if you get better each day, clearer, kinder, stronger, more self-aware, your life will make sense in hindsight. And it takes time. You have to get older. And as you get old, I'm telling you, when you start to get older and you really start to connect the dots in your life, what I'm saying to you will make sense. It will click. Look back over your life and connect the dots, and you will have an aha moment of what I'm talking about. So sometimes clarity comes after you walk, not before. Let me say that again. Sometimes clarity comes after you walk, not before. I'm going to let that sit.